Hello and welcome. My name is Atish Mathur and I'm here before you offering you modules for your civil services preparation. I'm primarily going to be speaking on three specific areas: GS paper 2, GS paper 4 and the law optional. And through this lecture, I will walk you through four simple elements. The first, what are the problems that I wish to solve? Second, how do I wish to solve them? Third, what are these modular courses about? And fourth, certain considerations in and around these modular courses. Even if you're somebody who's already thorough with your preparation and your preparation is going on in great capacity, I urge you to just sit through the video, sit through the lecture. It will help you streamline your preparation better. So with your permission, I now begin this lecture presentation. The first element. There are fundamentally 9 problems that students face. Let's begin with the first, the boundary problem. This is perhaps the most important problem because it is the beginning problem, it is the end problem. Let's take an example. The mains syllabus for polity says significant features, significant amendments, evolution. Where does this begin? Where does this end? Your governance syllabus says development processes and the development industries. It says issues arising out of the implementation of various schemes. Then you have a question in the mains that says, is the Rail Tariff Authority doing a good job? Are Aadhaar and the National Population Register complementary or contradictory? The UPSC syllabus, as much as we like it to be, is a great piece of learning, but is not a very well organized syllabus. And not only this, when we take up two specific issues, one of depth and the second of relevance. Let's take an example. For example, most polity discourses, most studies around polity have a very, very heavy emphasis on fundamental rights. Clause by clause, subclause by subclause, every possible judgment that there is. But the question is, how much does that truly matter as far as the exam is concerned? I understand the reservation is an extremely important and a sensitive topic. But how much of India's reservation policy is actually relevant for the civil services exam? Take religion for that matter. It is something which will appear in some form or another in a newspaper on at least a weekly basis. How much do we dive into it? Where do we draw a line? What is the circumference of our syllabus? That this is a line that we are not going to cross. We're going to control ourselves. We're going to say no. This is interesting to read. This is fascinating to read. But is this really relevant? Because as much as the civil services preparation is an eye-awakening, it's a soul-fulfilling exercise, there is an exam to give. And the civil services syllabus is not the most organized one. And that's the first problem. The second problem. In the information age, no doubt, all of us have almost an equal access to information. But specifically in the civil services, what we suffer from is an over-information problem. Somebody says, Lakshmikant is amazing. Somebody says, you can't survive without a DD Basu. And there are a few glorious souls who say, you've got to read the MP Jain. Give it some time and you will hear suggestions such as H.M. Sirvai, such as reading the entire text of the Constituent Assembly debates. Somebody says NCRTs are not relevant. Somebody says NCRTs from all classes are relevant. Some say only a few. How much do we really need to read? How do we, from a galaxy of sources, come to one, come to a sense of singularity? That's the second problem. The third problem is closure. Why is this a problem? It's a problem because almost every 15 days, there will be something on federalism in the newspapers. Every polity book, every polity lecture will have a significant focus on federalism. Competitive federalism, combative federalism, confrontational federalism, cooperative federalism. As many as there are words in the English dictionary, there will be forms of federalism. The question is, you are either going to write 100 words, 150 words, 200 words or 250 words, depending on your capacities. You're either going to be asked a set number of questions in a set number of boundary. How do we close? How do we put everything together on federalism in one single page? The closure problem. Do we have what we have is enough? Do we need to pouring more and more information that we come across? The third problem, and a fairly important one. The fourth problem, as we understand it to be, is the mismatch problem. Now, where is the mismatch? The mismatch exists on several layers. The most prominent one is the way our offline institutions and our online portals function is that classes usually end 3 months before the prelims. That's when students need teachers the most, because you have a lot of bridges to gap. You have a lot of data inputs to share, especially between the pre and the means. And that's the mismatch problem. Over and above this, you also have the sprinkling problem, that especially in offline institutions, your batches will start from July till about March. And how offline institutions are usually structured is, you will have different subjects on different days of the week, and several months would have passed by, but your subject would still have not been completed. And therefore, a very, very strong reason why people are not able to give their first attempts in the best possible manner is not because people are not studying hard, is because their 1 year preparation was not structured enough. If you combine the fourth and the fifth problem, what ends up happening? Teacher says X, reference book says Y, coaching material says Z, and all of this is spread over 10 months. And your syllabus is still not complete. Which therefore brings me to the most difficult problem in the syllabus: current affairs. It is as overrated as it is underrated. Let's understand this. We recently have a new Chief Justice of India, and as he has taken the post, he has announced a few procedural but extremely important reforms to the Supreme Court. There are some technical words, there are some technical listings, but there are also some things which are to be generally understood. How much of that needs to be integrated, repositioned, and captured? There is a very heavy role of discretion in civil services. How much do we need to read? How much do we not need to read? And we've got to learn to say, that's enough. Whatever we have is going to sail us through. And therefore, Current affairs, if not managed well, especially for governance, especially for international relations, becomes a very difficult task. Because if you think about it, if you map the kind of questions that have been asked, the reality of how long are current affairs important is far different from what we generally understand it to be. Then we look at the next set of problems. The seventh problem is of elimination. You've studied polity like anything. You've read the standard books as much as you could. But then why is it so when there's a prelims question that says, who is the guardian of, let us say, the Constitution? Why do a lot of you still tick the precedent? Why do we make such extremely simple yet silly mistakes? There is a science behind the kind of questions that are asked in polity in the prelims. Every year, I run a Magna Carta program just a few weeks before the prelims, and we've also discussed previous year questions. You're more than welcome to check them out, and you'll understand the math and the science behind it. But at the end of the day, if you studied X and you can't solve questions Y, that's the problem. And that's all that matters. Apart from this, we've got the expression problem. Now, what is the expression problem? The expression problem is, despite polity having enormous resources, IR having enormous editorials, with the fanciest of English possible, with the best possible terms that there are in the world, why is it so difficult to write an opinionated question? Why is it so difficult to structure, to organize? And why are there so many differentiated opinions on this? Points are forbidden, paragraphs are forbidden, headings are forbidden, diagrams are forbidden. What is the reality? Because I remember last year when I had filed an RTI to the UPSC asking them, how do you exactly correct your means papers? Do you have a standard format? And the UPSC replied to that RTI saying, no, we don't. We don't have a standard format, which means whatever makes the candidate explain themselves in the best possible detail is the best way to go about it. So how do we execute that in our syllabus? And the final problem, the concluding problem, is the illusion problem. Studied everything, but doesn't still feel like it. Something always feels amiss. It then starts playing with your confidence. It starts then making you question yourself. Because of which, the questions that you knew to be correct are often marked as wrong because you've either overthought them or you've underthought them. But there is an illusion. Reality seems to be distorted. And we must solve these issues. And for exactly those reasons, here are my solutions in the way these classes are going to be executed. So let's begin. In my view, education is one of the toughest problems to solve in the world. It becomes far tougher for something as severely competitive as the civil services exam, wherein the syllabus is open-ended, the evaluations are open-ended, the resources are open-ended. But fundamentally, there are three problems to solve as far as we look at it. One, the transmission problem. How knowledge is being imparted to you, in what form, in what nature, in what frequency. Simply identifying the syllabus, delivering lectures, and the notes. Second, assessments. How do you and I both know that this topic is done and dusted and closed? Both from an objective point of view and a subjective point of view. Third, communication, which means once you have attempted a subjective question, once you've answered a subjective question, is that the right answer? Have you really answered the question? Is there something that you are fundamentally missing? Do you have a community of students to interact with? Do you have students who have the same optional as you, who have the same learning outcomes as you, who have the same kind of study psychology as you? Birds of a feather do flock together. Have we built good study communities? And these are the three problems. So let's look at solving the first problem. The transmission problem. My courses are going to have 4 simple pillars. Let's start from the syllabus. The first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to restructure your entire UPSC syllabus for paper 2, paper 4 for you. Also applies to the law optional. We're going to restructure the syllabus and make it incremental in nature. For example, when you read the UPSC main syllabus, it puts federalism above parliament and state legislatures. It puts separation of powers above the judiciary. It puts basic structure above judiciary. How is the child going to study that in that order? It doesn't make pedagogical sense. So once the syllabus has been structured in a logical form, then the syllabus will be mapped to previous year questions. Past 10 years for the prelims and 2013 onwards for the mains. And after that mapping has been done, you will be given a lesson plan with a checklist. For example, let us say it's fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are, let us say, going to have, say, 10 topics. Each of these are going to be in a checklist form. The lectures are going to strictly adhere to this lesson plan. This lesson plan with the date of the lectures that will be uploaded shall be communicated to you well in advance. Each topic will have a dedicated lecture to it. That's the simple plan. Once the syllabus has been closed, defined, identified that this is what needs to be taught, we will then move to the lectures part of it. I will make it extremely clear. These are not going to be live classes. These are going to be recorded classes. Please understand why. Going to a coaching is a lot like going to a gym. We go there for regimentation purposes, for discipline purposes, for routine purposes, and a sense of external validation. Those are the things in common. But at the end of the day, at some point or the other, you will have to sit yourself by yourself in a room, lock yourself up and study. This is the harsh reality of the exam. That doesn't mean that you're isolated. That doesn't mean that you should not have some form of live interactions. I have provision for that, but in a completely different manner. I will come to that, don't worry. So recorded classes, full high definition, smartboard recorded classes. You can watch them for as many times as you want, however long you want to watch it. You've got 1000 days to watch these lectures. That's approximately 3 years. Always. These are going to be embedded in infographics. They're going to be highly interactive. These are only possible when they are recorded. Because what happens in live classes is there are internet disruptions, there are interactions that happen with students. It breaks the flow of the class. And therefore, when you're anyways going to watch, statistics always tell us that 90% of students who enroll in online education watch classes recorded. You can adjust the speed, the voice, the tenor, the quality, everything. That's entirely up to you. And why is this important is because then current affairs gets integrated. For example, let us say it's fundamental rights. One of the topics in fundamental rights, let us say, is privacy, right? Let us say in a few months from now, we do have a data protection bill retabled in the parliament. Two things are going to happen. One, an additional lecture will be plugged in here. The same lecture will also be visible to you separately on a series of updated lectures. The notes would accordingly be updated. I'm going to come to the notes part. And therefore, whenever you read or listen to privacy, you will have privacy in one place. That's the idea behind it. Now comes the most crucial part. At the end of the day, it's all about the notes. If we have one nation, one tax, one nation, one market, one nation, one fertilizer, then why can't we have one nation, one subject, one topic? For example, it's privacy. You will always have access to one note on privacy. It will be structured in a manner that you will be able to self-update it here. And if there are any updates, they will be made here itself. The note would be revised and you would be mentioned that this is the date the note has been revised and these are the revision changes which would be highlighted in a different format. So no matter when you pick up privacy, you will have the most updated note on privacy. That's what makes them renewable. And that means whether it is for the pre or the mains, you will very clearly and very specifically get categorical notes. That X part of fundamental rights in a notes form for the pre, Y part of it in the notes form for the mains. Lectures are also done accordingly. So your preparation starts and finishes here itself. In addition to this, I will also be giving you some learning tools such as flashcards, timelines, mnemonics, certain illustrations, some example-driven lectures, something or the other to aid your learning process. This would be on a need basis wherever it is possible to implement it or embed it, but your three fundamental pillars remain the same. So this is how the transmission of knowledge would be given to you. To put it very simply, there is going to be a syllabus in which you are going to have certain themes. These themes are going to be divided into topics. There's going to be one lecture and one note for this topic. If there is a massive change, I'll replace the lecture entirely. If it's a minor change, I will add an addendum to the lecture in the same file, so it's easy for you to revise. The same applies to notes. It's that simple. So your learning is closed, comprehensive, yet relevant. So that's the basic idea. Now that we understand this, we move to the next issue, which is the assessment problem. Now, as far as assessments are concerned, there are essentially four major issues, and let's begin with each. First, in class. I'll explain this with an example so it's easy for you. For example, let us say we are discussing majorities. I'll take the same example and I'll explain all four through this. Majorities. Once I've taught you the basics of majorities, in the lecture itself, I will include some self-evaluation questions. For example, I'll ask you a quick revision question on matching majorities with their uses. Then to truly test your understanding, I will create a hypothetical scenario. For example, if we need to have Article 21 be right to health, we already have right to education. What kind of majority do you think we should be using? What if we want to abolish GST altogether? What kind of majority would we be using? What if we want to shift the Supreme Court from Delhi to Bombay? What kind of majority would we be using? Hypotheticals, getting you out of your comfort zone. Then correlating it to actually what's happening in the paper that day. For example, if a bill has been tabled or passed, what kind of a majority was used? The papers don't mention it, but you should know. It will help you clear your concepts. And once the lecture on majorities is over, I will give you a small test, a check on whether this much is relevant for the exam or not, and some slightly complicated questions. That does a more than 2/3 present and voting majority really make sense in a parliamentary democracy? Think about it. Is it just a mere formality? Why do we have to do a double count when a single count can solve the same purpose? Once the entire topic, which includes majorities, is over, you will get a small objective test, a subjective test with self-evaluation frameworks, and I'll conduct group discussions by dividing the batch. Let us say there are 1,000 students, which is a reasonable estimate. We've already had 200 registrations so far. So let us say there are about 1,000 students. I'll divide you into groups of 25. And then we can discuss this over a Zoom call within the portal itself. And once an entire section of polity is over, I'll give you a comprehensive test, which I will evaluate. I'll sit down with you and we'll discuss this, apart from an objective test and of course, general group discussions. So this is the assessment framework. You don't need a mains test series. You don't need a prelims test series. This is more than enough, will be taken care of. Apart from this, we then move to the communication problem or the interaction problem, doubts. This is where it gets very interesting. Remember, I told you, you're not going to have live classes. You're going to have recorded classes. Now understand why recorded classes and how does this solve the problem. We're going to have a year-long thematic doubt calendar. For example, let us say it is the month of September. The month of September has about 30 days. Across these 30 days, there are going to be dedicated doubt sessions for topics in polity. For example, a dedicated doubt session at, let us say, 1 p.m. on 5th of September on, let us say, fundamental rights, directive principles, and let us say fundamental duties. The same doubt session next month on a specific date. So whenever you've read fundamental duties, rights, and principles, have questions, you will have in that month that topic's doubt session for sure, so that you can actually interact, have a longer discussion, and this is going to be fairly organized. I'm going to release a Google form, share it with you over an email on the community. You've got to fill the form. Your doubts are going to be with me. I'm going to place the doubt over the Zoom call. You can see when your doubt is up, attend the doubt, go back so that you don't waste your time. Apart from this, of course, if you have subject and strategic doubts in general, we can take that up. Over and above this, all of you will have access to a priority email. There will be a priority@atishmathur.com email being sent to you. It's going to be for you for any emergency, a 24-hour revert, anything that you need will be taken care of. And the portal has been designed in such a way that all of you will have discussion portals, forums for all possible natures, interact with each other, I can communicate with you, and so on and so forth. And therefore, we'll be able to also create study groups. For example, students with geography optional studying polity, you will have a certain way to go about it. You will have certain challenges that you may be facing while you study the geography optional. So things like those. So that is the communication problem. Instead of a live class where I ask you for your doubts in the last 5 minutes, or sometimes your doubts are left unanswered, let us structure, organize, and clearly identify your doubts. A simple, clear-cut structure. That's how the courses are going to be. Syllabus, lecture, notes, doubts. Simple. Syllabus, lecture, notes, doubts, tests. It's that simple. For every segment and sub-segment of the syllabus. And this is how we're going to go about it. And this is your larger communication problems. Now, let's move to the important part. I am not going to force you to join a comprehensive course or a sub-modular course, nothing like that. Whatever you need as per your own convenience, you are absolutely free to choose. There are comprehensive modules, comprehensive sub-modules, and specific subjects. So let's have a look. You'll understand what is it that we are referring to. So for example, this is my website, atishmathur.com. You can click on paid courses here, or you can directly go to courses.atishmathur.com. This is what the website looks like. This is the portal where you can access your courses. Now, if you just scroll down, these are some features. This is something that I show you. For example, 80% of your questions in the pre, 85% of your question in the mains will be able to directly be solved from the courses. That is an absolute assurance. No worries about that. Anyways, so for example, these are your courses. This is a comprehensive course, a full course on paper 2, paper 4, and also the law optional. Now, if you don't want the whole thing and you only want to study polity or governance or social justice, you're free to choose whichever module you want to. The lectures are going to be in a specific date timeline which will be given to you in the lesson plan. I will release it a few days before the course, and that will be completely abided by. So your paper 2 will be completed between 9 September 22 to 23rd September 23, which includes all the subtopics. Now, similarly, you've got specific subjects such as social issues for paper 1, internal security for paper 3, and you've got the law optional. The law optional will run from the 26th of September to the 26th of February. It's a longer course, it's a detailed course, and of course has sub-segments. So some of you may not need constitutional law, but a lot of students have an issue with international law. Just take the international law module. These are the timelines. The idea here is, this is the general timeline of the course. The point is, by January 23, paper 2 is over. Parallelly, by January 23, paper 4 is over. Similarly, by 31st December, social issues is also over. By 31st January 23, internal security is over. All of this has been done in such a way that it's easy to map current affairs accordingly, right? Now, let us say you're writing for 24. You can still join. The classes will keep on getting updated on a rotational basis as and when there is something new. You will still have those rotational thematic doubt sessions and all of those things. So the choice is entirely up to you. You want the whole thing, you want to take a few classes, you want to take only a few modules, that's entirely up to you. These are simple, transparent charges. There are no hidden costs, no GST, no gateway charges, nothing. This is it. This is all that you've got to pay. This is all that is the cost that you will incur. It's that simple. It's entirely up to you. The choice is entirely up to you. No questions asked, no problem at all. So choose what you need. If you think you need everything, great, go ahead. A lot of people have asked me, are there going to be discounts? Am I going to do any of those things? No. You must understand why not. It's largely because this is education and not e-commerce. Discount gimmicks, these discount kind of fundas where so prices are going to be increased, there is XYZ day discount, ABC Mahotsav discount, end of the month discount, end of the season discount. No. The value of education doesn't change with what day of the month, year or century it is. It never can. So therefore these are going to be the same. It's also unfair because if some student buys it at 9999, then I give you a 10% discount 2 months later, it's unfair to the student who got it at 9999. That is something that I would not be able to live with. So that is why it's a certain way, the way it is, right? Anyways, so let's continue. So therefore, you have all the choices. Choose, pick, however, no problems. All you've got to do here is this, right? Now that we've understood the basic components, so what happens here is, for example, if you go to the course page, these are all clickable items. You can click on here and therefore you will be directed to the payment gateway. You have to create a profile, you can choose the course that you like, and therefore you can continue with whatever you want to. So that's how it is. It's a very simple structure, a simple layout. There's no problem at all. I will, of course, I'll send you a confirmatory email. All of the back-end issues are taken care of. Now, who is this for? You might be somebody who's preparing by yourself. Therefore, you might be lost. You might not know people who are preparing, or there might be too much of an issue for you to figuring out notes or resources or concepts. This is for you. For those of you who are preparing at offline institutions, no matter which they are, the biggest or the smallest or wherever they are, you will have issues with respect to courses being completed. Sometimes you'll have great teachers, no doubt, but sometimes the courses are not going to be completed on time, and therefore you're not going to be prepared for your exam. So this can be plugged in to your offline preparation. That is why the prices are also very competitive. Third, with online portals. Same issue, too many teachers, too less teachers, still syllabus not getting completed, taking a long time, not able to revise, limitations on the number of viewings, so on and so forth. No matter where you are in the prep, whether it's your first year, second year, you've already given an attempt, there are specific problems that you are facing in specific subjects, it has been designed and built in such a way from somebody who's starting their preparation to somebody who wants to improve their rank from 200 to rank 1, the courses are built in that order. So you have the whole sort of framework right before you. Now, certain very important pieces of information that you should know. If you are somebody who's a child, spouse, or a sibling of anybody who is serving or who has served in any uniformed services, including the police, and the person was a martyr or was injured in the line of duty, you on the website you will find an email address that says waivers@atishmathur.com. Just drop me an email and I will make sure all the courses are available for you for an absolutely free of cost. Why? Because the person who gave their life for you and I to do this in the first place is the highest honor that there is. And for somebody who comes with generations of my family in the forces, with some of my closest friends who've served and have also given up their lives, this is the least that we can do and give back to the people who are left behind. So if you're somebody who has somebody in the forces who either was deceased or injured in the line of duty, doesn't matter if it's the Central Armed Police Forces, the Armed Forces, Naval, Air Force, Police, reach out, you're preparing, the most amount of support will be given to you. All courses free. 2. If you are somebody who identifies with the LGBTQIA community and you would like to prepare, because I understand there are a lot of biases, restrictions, glass ceilings that members of the LGBTQIA community face, do reach out and I will understand where you come from, I'll understand what your issues are, and I will give a full course access to you. You don't have to pay anything. It's only when more people from the LGBTQIA community enter the services will it also aid in normalization of the LGBTQIA community. We need more people from across diverse sections in society, because that is how people are going to be okay with being who they are and identifying who they are. Third, if you are somebody who suffers from any physical disability, please write to me and I will make sure all the courses are given completely free to you. This is fair. What is fair is fair. What is right is right. Now comes the next set. You've got to be very careful about this, and please listen to this carefully. As you would know, I was associated with an institution called Next IAS. Now, there were advertisements of mine in my name where polity was to be taught by me. Earlier on this year, I released all my polity lectures entirely for free so that people who want to prepare can prepare. You are more than free to check them out. You will find them on the free lectures tab on the website, both Atish Mathur and courses.atishmathur.com. But I still owe a higher responsibility because there would be students who would have taken admission at Next thinking that polity will be taught by me. Now, it is my responsibility to teach them polity in real time. So therefore, as far as the polity and constitution module is concerned, if you're a student who's enrolled at Next IS for 2023, please reach out to waivers@atishmathur.com. I'll make sure your polity and constitution classes are completely free. That is a part of the comprehensive course on GS Paper 2 or a specific module called polity and constitution. Now comes Unacademy. Over the last few months, for several reasons, professional, personal, medical and otherwise, I have not been able to take classes as frequently as I could, which is also one of the reasons why I released all my polity classes, so that students don't have to wait for my classes to study for my classes. Now, if you're somebody who had enrolled at Unacademy from January 2022, doesn't matter if you used my referral code or not. If you are somebody who studied at Unacademy from January 2022 onwards, and I was to teach polity and constitution, governance and social justice, please reach out. I'll give the courses to you. No problem at all. And finally, you might be somebody undergoing something difficult. You may have some specific problems. There might be a financial issue, a medical issue, some form of an issue. If it is genuine, I will try my level best to do whatever I can. A lot of people have reached out. I have helped them out in whatever way I could. Some courses have been given to them at a reduced price. I will do my best for you if you truly need it. The reason I'm able to do all of this is because of your trust. And therefore, if I think I can stand here because of your trust, I know that you will not break my trust by not using it for the right reasons, not using these for your right reasons. What is fair will always be fair. Which then brings me to the last part. The devil lies in the detail. Now, I understand my industry is a little difficult when it comes to refunds and people don't talk about it, but it's high time that we do. Number one, within a month of the course is beginning, you drop me an email, say, sir, it's not for me, I'm not liking it, it's not making sense, or I'd rather not study for this exam, whatever it is. 100% refund, no questions asked, no problem at all. I'll not bother you, I'll not ask you. Within the next day or so, I'll get the refund processed for you. A detailed date sheet, lecture plan, date-wise lecture upload dates, everything is going to be given to you. Even if there is a single breach of a deadline, right? If I tell you that the lecture on Parliament will be uploaded on 10th November by 9 AM, if it is 9:15 AM, you have the right to claim 100% refund, even if it's the last day of the course. No questions asked. It is something that I also want to impose on myself as a punctuality deadline, because for the first time ever, you are paying me. Therefore, I owe you more than anything else. No questions at all. Apart from this, there could be some extenuating circumstances. A few months into prep, you may have to go start a job, or there might be a medical emergency. You might require the fees to be refunded to you. If your reasons are legitimate, I will take that into consideration. I'm not going to be a ghost about it. Don't worry. Third, I don't know if the nation is going to have a data protection law at some point or not, but as far as I understand it, right to privacy is our fundamental right under Article 21, which means all of you are signing up on a portal, all of you are going to submit your data. That data is going to be yours. It will not be given to the services provider. It will not be shared with the industry, nothing of that sort. The data doesn't leave the portal. And when you are done with your courses or you are withdrawn from the courses, your data gets eliminated right there with a written undertaking. So don't worry about it. And fourthly, I know you will clear the exam. I know you will clear the exam from my courses.